Boom, baby. Alright, so now we are back. We can finally finish this guy, texture it up, and show you the basics on how this is going to work out. So we left off with this guy with numbers and letters and squares and checker patterns on his clothing, which is not what we want, obviously. But it does work great for letting us know when there's pinching or overstretching on the textures. Alright, so now let's go ahead and take these UVs and bring them into Photoshop. So we did that previously and we already have this set up. Now something I should let you know, it was that I actually deleted the UVs for the pants and I redid them in a different way, so they look like this, which is nothing different. I think I tried to unwrap him like this in the beginning of when I was unwrapping his pants, and I told you how to do it. I was finally able to do it. I don't know, it's just it worked this time. So if you guys want to unwrap the pants this way, you certainly can. But I did it the exact same way using planar mapping. I didn't use anything fancy. So you guys know everything that I know. So try your way. I'm making you think. Don't just copy this tutorial. I'm sure your model looks a little bit different, and if you're not modeling the ninja, you're probably modeling something else. It still works the same way. Alright, so just think a little bit. And from here we are gonna go into Photoshop. Boom. We need to open up the UV layer, the UV layout. Where do I have my UV layout? Do I have my UV layout? I don't think I have a new one. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna show you a newer way, a better way. Because if I show you the old way, which we did, it's not gonna update as fast. So I'm gonna show you a new way. I think last time I showed you going into polygons UV snapshot, and then we did it this way. If you did it that way, it's okay. Cool. I'm gonna show you this other way. So go to image. Make sure you have your model selected. You go to image in your UV texture editor, and at the bottom it says create PSD network. Now what does that mean? Now this is if you have Photoshop. It's gonna create a Photoshop connection with Maya. So while you're working in Photoshop, you'll come down here where it says update, and then quickly you'll be able to see the textures that you created in Photoshop. You'll be able to see them update in Maya, pretty quickly. So that's why I'm gonna do it this way. If you do it the other way, going into polygons UV snapshot, you need to go into the material. You need to find your where you saved it and then update it. It's just a couple of more steps longer, but I think this way will be better. So go to create PSD network, edit, reset settings so that you have the same thing I have. I'm gonna keep my UV, the whole the size of it at 1024 by 1024. So keep aspect ratio checked on. If you guys have Photoshop closed, you guys can check this one, and then it'll automatically open it up for you. But I already have it open, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Now you need to tell it by this little yellow folder where you want to save your, because it's gonna create a Photoshop file for you with the UVs already in there and layers that are prepared for you to add the textures, which is pretty cool coming from Maya. So I have a folder here called texture tutorial, so I'm gonna go in there, and then I'm gonna name my Photoshop document tutorial PSD. That's it, and then just hit save. So it's gonna save it in that folder. And then down here you can tell it what color you want your UVs, so you can change the color. I like them white. So all this default is pretty good for me. The only thing you need to make sure here at the bottom is the textures. What kind of textures do you want this to be? Do you want it to be a bump map, a transparency, a color map? It has different options for you, but this is only going to be for the color. Alright, so this is actually the textures that you're going to be able to see on the model. So go to color and then click this right arrow so that it adds it onto it. And then once you're done, just hit create or apply. I'm going to hit create. And then that's it. You're like, well, what happened now? Well, you need to go to Photoshop and open that file where you saved it at. So I'm going to go to texture tutorial, and then look, you'll notice it created this tutorial PSD file that I named. So once you find it, hit open in Photoshop, and then there we go. It actually saved out the texture pattern that I had. So you go here to layer 1 and you hide it. You see that that's actually just hiding the checker pattern, but the UVs are still there. So what Maya actually creates for you in Photoshop is the UVs as a separate layer, and then you have a grouped folder with all of your textures, which they need to go inside. Now I don't need this background stuff, so I'm going to delete that. So you have your UVs up here, which is very important to not move them, because the UVs, how they are arranged right now, are exactly the same way that they are arranged in Maya. So if I come in here and I go, oh, let me just move the UVs a little bit higher up or a little bit no, because they're not going to match up with the way that they are in our model, which you can see here in Maya. You know, we have this little upper square. That's the same square that we see here and Photoshop. So make sure you do not misalign this stuff, because this is like our template. We're going to use this to add the photos and just match it up to what we have here. Okay, so I'm going to delete this checker pattern too, because we don't need it anymore. So what I'm going to do is, now here's the thing. I'm probably not going to make a tutorial, like I'm not going to make this tutorial about Photoshop. So I'm going to move rather quickly. And for those of you who don't know Photoshop, might be like, oh, that sucks. I was following you, but I don't know how you did this thing in Photoshop. Well, I'm going to make a tutorial about Photoshop, like the basics of it, in a separate tutorial, just because I don't want to make this about, texturing and about Photoshop. So bear with me. I'm going to go pretty quickly with Photoshop. If you don't know it, just wait for my tutorial on Photoshop. Alright? But if you guys can follow along, I'll try to very quickly tell you what I'm doing. So some of the main things is down here, you want to create layers. So I have this icon that says create new layer. Next to it is a trash can if you want to delete the layer. So right now I created this black layer. Over here you have the color that you want to select. You can click on that and change it to a different color. We're going to be using the move tool, which is up here, which you can grab, move stuff around. The marquee, this is how you make selections, so you can select stuff. If you hold it, you can turn that into a circle. We're probably not going to use that one. You have this lasso tool, which you can click different places, and then once you're done, go back to that starting point, and it makes that selection how you made it. To deselect, you don't just click somewhere else, because it's gonna start making another one. You need to do a Control D. So Control D will deselect, and that's pretty much it. And we're gonna be using the eraser tool, which is down here, which you can erase stuff here. So I'm erasing the black background. Control Z to undo. Over here you have your different brushes. You have soft brushes, and you also have hard edge brushes. And that's pretty much all I'm going to be using right now. So with this, let's go ahead and start texturing. Now I have some textures already, but you guys are more than welcome to go to cgtextures.com. Most of these, I think all of these textures are free. You just need to create a username and password. And I think there's a limit as to how many textures you can download, but they're very high resolution. They're very good. So, like, let me see if I can check some of these out. So this is actually what we're going to be using. We need to find realistic looking textures or images. See, so if you have like an environment or you modeled a castle or a house or whatever, and then you're looking for realistic textures, this is where you go to download it. So, you know, this could be the side of your house, or this can be the ground. You know, if you have a little walkway, you can make it look abandoned. You know, you have different textures here. So this is where your creativity comes into play. So go ahead and download some of these, or you can go to Google. I like to go to Google Images and then just type in whatever it is you're looking for, and then type the word texture next to it, and that'll give you like these flat images. So that's actually what we need, flat images of textures. So make sure they're not like, I don't know, sort of like this, angled or whatever. Make sure like what would be a bad texture? Something like this, because you can't really duplicate it because it has a specific wrinkle going to a certain area. So stuff that can tile well, or that you can copy and paste and you don't see a seam next to it. So stuff like this is good. Stuff like that, maybe, I don't know if you would see a seam if I were to, you know, duplicate this, but you know, just find the texture of whatever character you're modeling. It doesn't have to be the ninja, and just work with it. Just download some of these, bring them in here, and then we're gonna start working with this. So very quickly I'm gonna show you what we're gonna be doing. So like I said, we're gonna be using the UVs as templates. So we're gonna bring in those texture images, we're gonna apply them into these certain areas that we want that texture to. So I'm gonna go ahead and place some of these images in here already. So I have some here. I'm gonna make the ninja, I'm gonna try this brown here. Now you guys can try whatever color you want, but I'm gonna go with this, and I'm gonna call this brown cloth. So you need to make sure you have that layer selected that you're gonna be messing with here. So if I were to select UV snapshot and I'm trying to erase this brown cloth, you'll notice you're not gonna be able to erase it because you're on the UV layer. So make sure you don't make that mistake. So go to your brown cloth, and I can't erase it because it's a smart object. So if you get this little square icon, just right click on the layer and go to rasterize layer. That'll make it into a normal image. So now you can erase on it. So that's exactly what we want. So let's think here. Let me hide that layer. I want that cloth, this brown one, on the front of the chest. I want it on the back of his shirt, and I want it on the pants. So with this, I'm gonna go, I can probably rotate this. So Control T and then hold Shift to snap to, like, I think it does 15 degrees at a time. And then I'm gonna duplicate it. So I'm gonna grab this texture, click and drag down here to the create new layer, and then release on it. So now it made me another copy. So I'm gonna move it over. So now you see it took like pretty much a lot of the room here. So I'm gonna hold Control and select the other texture that I have. So now I have both of them selected, and I want to combine them into just one layer. I don't need two of them because you don't see a seam here, so this is working pretty well. So to merge them, do Control E while you have your layer selected, and now I only have this it created this one large texture now. So what I can do now is go to the rectangular marquee selection. You can do M, and then I'm going to erase the rest of the texture that I don't need. So make sure I don't have anything on the hands or over the other UVs, right? I can even do the eraser tool, Control D to deselect, and just erase areas where it's penetrating the other UVs. So make sure it doesn't touch it. And then here it's touching, so I want to erase that texture. Erase right around it, because that's where the arm texture should go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Now the rest of the empty area doesn't really matter, because it's not really you're not gonna see it on the model. Only what's being colored in, the UVs, is what you're gonna see on the model. So if you actually forget, like let's say I erase a little bit inside of the UV, now you're actually gonna see that you're gonna see this area be black. So you're gonna be missing a chunk of your texture. So make sure you don't erase too much inside of your template or your UVs. And then after that, all you have to do now is just save the file. So go to File, Save, or you can see the shortcut is Control S. So now that it's saved, go back into Maya, and then let's do an update and see what happens. So go back to Image, Update PSD Networks, and then check it out. Boom! That's a perfect spot to use that. Boom! So click on it, hit 3, and now there you go. You have some realistic textures onto your model. So you have the chest, you have the back of it. So now it looks like cloth, you know. So this is where your creativity, like I said, comes into play. You can change the color of the texture, you know, depending on what you get. You know, you can get a grandma looking knitted t-shirt on a ninja, you know, I don't care. You can make him a pink ninja dude, man, for the lack of a better word. Pantaloons, you know, you can add a belt texture on it. You can put a little logo on him, write your name. I don't care what you do. Now the reason why his arms are black is because we don't have a texture on that area yet. So we're gonna need to focus on that. And another thing is, you notice that his head has the same texture as his body does, and you're like, why did that happen? We don't even have the UVs for the head. Well, actually it's gonna copy the body UVs, I'm sorry, the body textures. Anything we apply to the rest of it is gonna copy it onto the head, because when we added the checker pattern, it added the material to the whole body. So it's even including the head. That's why it has the same texture from the body to the head. So if you wanna, like, once we get into the head, we're gonna need to separate the materials. So if you go into your hypershade here, so you see here we have this just one material, and we say select object with material. You see everything is being applied to it. So it doesn't even care about the UVs for the head yet, because we don't have anything. So don't worry about that right now. I don't want to confuse you. Just close this, get out of here. Let's go into the fun stuff, Photoshop. So from here, you know, you can bring in other textures, like, I don't know, like blood, and add it on top of this, you know. So this is completely up to you now. So watch this. I'm gonna go to File, Place, and then I think I have a texture of skin. So no, these are just images I found on Google. So here's a picture of skin. I can shrink this by doing Control Shift, and then that'll shrink it from the center. I can go to Image and adjust the, oh, it's a smart object. So right click, rasterize layer, image adjustment, and I'm gonna mess with the saturation because I think it's too like orange, too orangey. If that's even a word now. Orangey is too orangey. So you can, make it black and white. You can make it really orange. Too orange. I don't know. You mess around with it till it looks like skin. Maybe there. I like that. And Control T again. I'm gonna shrink it a little more. And then what I'm gonna do here again, because I don't want the pores. You can see the pores on the skin texture, so I needed to make it smaller just so that it's like in proportion to the actual hand. So I'm gonna grab the skin, duplicate it, and move that other texture somewhere here. Grab another copy and move it over. So you're essentially building your own textures here. So this is why Photoshop is so good. So then I can do shift, go all the way down to skin. So that'll select all of them. Or you can select each one individually by holding control. Hold control and do one by one. And then do a Control E to combine them all again. So Control E will merge everything. I'm gonna rename this to skin. And then I'm gonna grab this skin, duplicate it. So now I have two. Now you need to make sure you're not on top of this. You see how I'm overlaying on top of the shirt here? So you can actually grab this one and go under the cloth. So we have the brown cloth here, which is above the skin. So that's how the layer ordering works. Whatever is on top of the layers here, like how they are in order, is how they're gonna appear here. So if I have this brown cloth, you can see it's on top of this skin, which is this one. That's how it's gonna look. So the layer here matters. So you can just click and drag them around. That's how you get different orders. So this little eyeball will hide it and unhide. So from here I can grab this and select that, delete. Then I'm going to do a Control S for save. Go back to Maya. Go to image, update. And then there we go. Now we have some skin here. So we can continue to do this until, I don't know if you want to add gloves here, or maybe you want to continue this skin texture. Just go back into Maya, Photoshop I mean, and then grab the skin and then put it on top of the hands. That way the skin texture continues. You go back to the foot, you add your own textures onto it. You can add a logo like I said here. So this is pretty much it. That's how texturing works. So let's say this was a house and you had the front of the wall, then you would add like we saw here, we can bring in textures of like walls here, like this type of stuff, instead of being skin or cloth, and then you just go ahead and apply it to it. So it's the exact same way. We are using the UVs as a template. Like imagine it's a coloring book. That's exactly what Photoshop is. You have your outlines here, you grab your Crayolas and you draw away. So you have your tools here, you have text. Watch this. I can write my name, David. You can't even see it. I'm gonna write my name on it, and I'm gonna make this huge. I'm gonna put my name right on there, and Control S to save. Go back to Maya, image, update. Boom, David. That's my name. So those of you who don't know what my name is, there it is. So you want to make this guy into Superman or whatever, you put a big old S right there. This is cheesy. I'm not gonna leave it on there, but I'm just showing you. You guys can do whatever you want. You can add a blood texture, add a cut texture. Make him into a ninja zombie. Add dirt onto him. Whatever you want to do. add a belt, add a texture of a belt here. Uh, Cut up his pants, make it look like he's been through fights. You know, make it look like it was cut with a knife and show his skin. I don't care what you do. This is completely up to you. This is where your creativity comes into play. I'm only showing you how to add the textures to your ninja or whatever model you're doing, but after here this is completely up to you. So I'm gonna leave you guys here. I'm gonna make a tutorial for adding, how to do the UVs for the head, which is gonna be the exact same way, and nothing different, nothing new. Uh, what else? That's it. If you guys want to use the same textures I'm using, I'm gonna upload them to my photo gallery on my Facebook. So go to facebook.com/animation methods, and you guys can post pictures of your ninja, of whatever project you guys are working on. I can critique it if you want. You guys can send me personal messages. I don't care. Do whatever you want. If you guys want to learn how to do animation, I also have a book. It's called Animation Methods, which you guys can check it out on animationmethods.com. And I think that's it. Look at that, it even says it on his head. So I think I'm done.